I'd like to call the meeting to order, please.
Madam Chair, I move that we reconvene in open session and adopt certification of closed session.
It's been moved and seconded to reconvene in open session and adopt certification of closed session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Certification of closed session. Whereas the Dinwiddie County School Board has convened a closed session on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas paragraph 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by this school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Dinwiddie County School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only such business matters as were identified in the motion convening a closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the school board. J. Snaff, District 1.
I certify.
Betty Haney, District 2.
I certify.
Barbara Pittman, District 3.
I certify.
Mary Benjamin, District 4.
I certify.
Sherilyn Merritt, District 5.
I certify.
Madam Chair, all certify.
Thank you. Would y'all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for us to adopt the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Recognition?
Ms. Robinson Williams, come forward.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Today, I am here to recognize Mrs. Courtney Bishop. All right, so Mrs. Bishop is a first grade teacher at Midway Elementary School. On June 8th, the Virginia Lottery and its partners, Virginia Senator Frank Ruff and Dinwiddie Public School officials gathered to surprise Mrs. Bishop at the school with the good news. Mrs. Bishop's name was drawn in a prize drawing from nearly 6,000 entries submitted by teachers who entered a unique code from their thank you cards that were given by the students. Okay, Courtney won a Virginia-themed vacation valued at $2,500 and a gift card towards luggage or technology from the Virginia Lottery, as well as Midway Elementary School also received $2,500 in supplies from the supply room.
Yay, that is awesome.
The Think a Teacher campaign is a unique partnership between the Virginia Lottery, the supply room, and the Virginia PTA. So Courtney, we say thank you and congratulations, okay? All right.
And she has a lot of her, I think, her
Yes,
colleagues
do
with
you
her.
have co-workers?
She
Please
travels
stand.
with her
Please stand.
champions.
Miss Celeste Potts and Miss Melissa Watkins, my very best friend.
Oh.
Sister like and my mentor, who I learned it all from her.
Oh.
Anyway,
That's wonderful.
Congratulations.
I think the children were more excited. You know, they were so excited.
They all thought they were
weren't
going to be on TV or a
Well,
game
yes,
show.
there was a camera. There was a camera.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson.
All right, closed session report.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the personnel report as presented.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for us to approve the personnel report as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I move that the school board uphold the superintendent's recommendation in the personnel case number 02-07/22 and authorize the chair to issue a written decision on behalf of the school board.
Second.
Second. Okay. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. That the school board uphold the superintendent's recommendation in personnel case number 02-07/22 and to authorize the chair to issue a written decision on behalf of the school board. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Consent agenda, the expenditure reports.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the expenditure report as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the expenditure reports as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right, approval of the minutes.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes for July 27th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of July 27, 2022. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Superintendent matters.
Normally, this is the part where Ms. Fleming comes up to provide you where we are. I'm happy to report that she is home today, and we hope to see her very soon, but she's doing really well. I do want to let you know we do have good news relative to student enrollment. Our budget was built on 4,100, and as of the last count, we're at 4,120. So we are up above, and we do expect more kindergartners to be joining us. That usually kind of trickles in at the last minute. So we are expecting that to happen, but parents are very excited. I will tell you, I've seen several of them in the grocery store. They're very excited for the kids to come back to school even early. So it's good news to report that our enrollment looks like it's going to remain steady for this upcoming year.
Very good. The Evergreen Study and Stipends.
That is Mrs. Branch, and doesn't look like she's here right now. Could I get some, Mr. Bird, do you mind stepping out and ask Ms. Branch? She's not probably expecting us to move this quickly today. So would it be okay for us to move down to the next one while we're ready?
Absolutely. School safety and security updates.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Walters to come forward and talk to you a little bit about what he's been working on relative to school safety and security.
Ampy told me to make sure to turn on the microphone this time. I think I did a whole presentation without the microphone last time.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson, for setting him up for success.
Good afternoon. As Dr. Weston said, we've been doing a lot of work. A lot of this work was done previously last year, but I wanted to include it. It's all the things we've done. You know, in light of the world we live in today, I think that it's important that we are continuing to make sure that we update our security each and every year. And luckily, we have some avenues to do so. Two of the things that we wanted to do, or two of the portions of the comprehensive plan that we wanted to make sure we addressed, we wanted to make sure that, better said, these safety measures are addressing the things that we've identified in our comprehensive plan as important to us. I've listed them there, and I'll go over them briefly, but, you know, you've had access to this, so I didn't want you to, you know, feel like I'm going to sit here and read them to you. But priority 2 is a caring culture. Obviously, we want a climate and working condition that establishes that we care about our students and our staff, and that we are taking care of our students and our staff while they're with us. Our safety audits, which we complete each and every year, that we have completed this year. We've completed each school safety audit, in addition to we've completed the division safety audit. And partnerships, strong relationships with the Dinwiddie County government, Elite Contracting, and Mid-Atlantic Contracting. Priority 4 addresses resource stewardship. So we wanted to try to improve the utilization and/or allocation of existing resources. And I saw that as two things. You know, we're going out there and finding the money that we need to do a lot of these updates, but also, you know, we're improving upon these security investments that we have within the schools. We're making them better, and, you know, constant changing technology, we're making sure that we keep up with those. And we're identifying, unfortunately, with technology and security, there's going to be problems. So we identify those problems and make sure we update them and fix them to keep our schools as up to date as we possibly can. And then obviously we're seeking external funding constantly to try to fund these things. So a couple of ways, I think it's next slide there, if you would please, yeah. The Security Equipment Grant Management is a VCJS grant, Virginia Department of Education grant, which is funded by the VPSA, which is a Virginia Public School Authority, and it operates funding agencies for Virginia Public Schools. They have a $250,000 maximum award per school system, and we did take advantage of that in 2021 and 22, and I'll discuss what we did with that here in a second. But we've also applied for that this year, and we have some great improvements that we're looking forward to doing should we get that grant this year. In 21-22, we did purchase 55 additional radios, two-way radios for our school system. They are scheduled to be delivered at the end of August, and I think that those are going to be very important. We did some training not too long ago, and they said that's one of the main communication methods when it comes to emergency situations. The phone is usually not available. As we know, the internet cell service is not reliable, but two-way radios are. So we're trying to buy some additional radios, or we actually have. We're waiting for them. Security cameras. We've installed new and more up-to-date security cameras at all 7 schools. And we've also updated the main entrance key card upgrades at 5 of our schools that needed them. So we made sure that they were working. And I did check a couple of those today when I went to the schools, and they worked seamlessly. Intrusion alarms. All of our schools now have intrusion alarms, which is important. Sutherland Elementary and Dinwiddie High School came with them, but we have added intrusion alarms at all of our schools. So I think that's going to be important to keeping our students safe and also keeping our buildings secure after hours. That's when they really come in. The next program that I was really excited about, this is the first thing I jumped into, and I've been talking about it so much, but was the digital mapping for K-12 Virginia schools. The Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services issued a grant that covered $3,500 investment per school in your division if you applied before the money ran out. And I'm proud to say that Dinwiddie Middle School, I'm used to being there. Dinwiddie Schools was one of the first schools in the area to complete this project, and it was completed today. Dinwiddie County Schools, our application was approved on June 7th. We walked each and every school in the county and made sure that everything was correct. And the company Collaborative Response Graphics came up, and they did our graphics, and we'll see them here in a second, but they're complete, they're ready to go, and we're working with Dennis Hale and Dinwiddie Fire and EMS to sit down and with our administrators and talk about these graphics and how they can best serve our students in an emergency situation, and that'll happen in October. We're going to do a half-day training with our administrators. So basically, what are CRGs? They are geo-relevant emergency response maps, and you'll see when we get to the it's a lot of fancy words, but you see when we get to the map exactly how they operate. And what they do is they allow the first responder and the person in the school to communicate based on what's going on in that school and where it's going on without any knowledge of that school. It's a map that if you look at for the first time, if you've never been in a building, you can give directions on where you are on that campus at any point, which is very important when you're talking about, distress situations, because people get nervous and they, say I'm in Miss Johnson's room or whatever. Well, that EMT may not know who Miss Johnson is or where her room is. So now you start talking about exact coordinates and exact room numbers that are listed on that map. So there's 2 versions of CRGs. There's a macro and a micro version. A macro version is the overview of the facility from afar, from a macro view, and there's a micro that goes down to each room number, which is also very important. And I think it's really neat that these are going to be on the laptops and on the screens of the EMS as they respond, the exact map that we're going to be looking at on this side. So, there's going to be a common language. This is a macro view of DMS, which happens to be the same macro view as DHS because they're one campus there, according to this map. And if you see there, if you wanted to explain to somebody you're in the football stadium and you have somebody responding who's never been to the football stadium, you could very easily tell them by that map where they are. Now, this is a little bit smaller than it would be just to fit on the screen here. But if you look, if you tell them, let's say the football stadium's in A14, they know exactly where you are in the stadium without even knowing where the stadium is. So I think that's important, especially when you have, unfortunately, we do have situations where lots of stuff happens and other localities have to respond, and they'd be responding using the same map that the school is looking at. The next version is a micro version, and this is a micro map of DMS, and this allows that teacher who is looking in their classroom, trying to get help, to look at that and say, I'm in room, I can't, 54, and the person says, okay, they're in quadrant E11, and they can go straight to where that teacher is, and that teacher can do that very easily, even when they're nervous. And again, that's going to be important when things are going on, when you have an emergency situation. So I was really excited about those, and those will go into play here this year, and we're going to have training with admin and Dennis Hale and his group in October. So for the admin.
So are the police going to have this too?
Yes, ma'am. It's going to be in there, when the police officer responds and they pull up their laptop and they see there's an emergency, they're going to be looking at this exact map that we're looking at.
And they'll be involved in the training in October also.
Yeah. Chief Hale is going to put together his side of the people.
Oh.
Yeah.
Will state police be also?
I'm not positive. I know they'll have these available to them when they respond. But as far as, which law enforcement get them disseminated to them goes, basically through Chief Hale. Okay. Additional safety and security measures that we've had in July of 2022, a lot of our staff went to the Civilian Response and Casualty Care, the CRCC, which was basically a response on how to deal with active attacks. And they said it was there's a distinction between an active attack and an active shooter. We always hear about active shooters on the news, but that's not the only way that people attack our children at schools or our staff at schools. So we did go to this training, and it was a wonderful training. It was led by, I know, Alan Chambers. Some of y'all may know him. Is that correct, Jay? Alan?
Remember that.
Okay, but anyway, Alan Chambers, who is, he is a former state trooper here in this area, and he led this training. It was a wonderful training. It talked about, how to react, what to do, but it also talked about when it's over, how can you help until EMS can arrive? Because a lot of times EMS arriving can be an amount of time before they clear that school. So it gave a lot of useful information, and I got nothing but positive feedback from anybody who was in that training, and we're also going to have another training in the fall. We've also, as I said earlier, we've done our VCJS 2022-23 school safety audits. All 7 schools have completed, and our division has completed their audit. So as far as the VCJS goes, our schools are audited and ready to go for the year. Crisis management manuals, all 7 schools have turned them in. We have them on file, and those have been updated for the school year. So I was really excited about that. Some things that we're looking at for the 2022-2023 SEGM, the Security Equipment Grant Management. We're going to, in Dinwiddie Elementary School was the school that I think is probably one of our most vulnerable schools right now. The problem with Dinwiddie Elementary is when you open the door and walk in the school, once you get into the school, you're in the school. There's no security vestibule to keep you from access to the school. So we had some people come out and do some quotes for us, and we're going to get key card entry to all classrooms in Dinwiddie Elementary School. And we're also going to install a security and vestibule. So when a visitor comes to the school, before they are allowed into the school, they have to be approved by the school staff. And that will be by key buzz. They'll have to be buzzed in, just like you see at the middle school or the high school or any of the other schools. We're also going to add some outdoor wall-mounted lighting to some of the vulnerable areas at all of our schools, particularly the high school where during basketball games, as you walk up to there's not a great deal of lighting. We're going to try to add some lighting there to protect our staff during basketball games. Some other things that we've looked at is some upgrades to security. We've been working with Dinwiddie County to upgrade the security here at the Pamplin building. We're going to install key card access locks on the direct hall access to the offices, as well as panic buttons in here and in some other offices where I think they may be needed. So that's basically, I know it's a lot of information. I know I talk really fast when I'm nervous, but I wanted to make sure that that you had the update, and I'd entertain any questions you have and answer anything I can.
So the upgrades, the key card upgrades was not necessary or needed
for the schools that you did not mention, or they already were upgraded?
The ones that I didn't mention had functioning key card access, and they were working properly. There were other areas within the school. For instance, the high school has a lot of locks that are Wi-Fi, and of course, they're constantly needing upgrades, and they are working on those now. We did have some other non-main entrance access key cards that needed some work. I'm proud to say the middle school, Mr. Berg can verify, 2 doors that have been broke forever are now fixed and working and hardwired. So I did mention that the main entrance because that's where 90% of the traffic comes into the school on a daily basis. But yes, ma'am, to answer your question, the other ones were working.
And the south side, that was an issue with EMT or 911, and that is now fixed?
Yes,
They have a new system? Or
They do.
New phone system?
well, and unfortunately, their fire system is complicated, but it does function. It does function, it's just complicated. Yeah, but it is it's I tell Sherry all the time, it's an old building that we're trying to fix and we're trying to take care of it. It's a building we love, but it takes a little work sometimes. So we're working on it, and Sherry's been patient with us about that, so.
But Mr. Walter, you're saying that each of our schools has security and safety measures in place.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's what the community is concerned about. That is something in place. We know we can't 100% do whatever we want to do, whatever. We don't even know what's right to do. We do what we think is best. But I'm sure, I know my community would be glad, and my constituents, that something is done to help protect our staff and our students.
Yes, ma'am.
And I do appreciate what you've done, and I know you will continue to update us and keep doing whatever you can to make it safe.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
I think
Appreciate it.
I think the biggest thing for me is the swipe cards outside the classroom. So that, because when you're nervous or you hear that we're going into a lockdown, you can't think about, I gotta lock the door, I gotta pull but if the door's closed, it's locked, and nobody's coming in there unless they have this, if they have access to it, so.
One of the things they talked about in that training was they haven't had a situation yet with an active shooter that's been reported widely where the person entered through a locked door.
Right.
They always enter through
always
unlocked
unlocked.
doors.
Right.
So the more doors we can get locked and keep locked and secured, the safer we're going to be.
Now, would that key card unlock any of the doors in the classroom doors?
Yes, the key card access is able to unlock any of the interior doors.
Yeah.
Exterior doors are controlled a little easier, and usually they're set on timers. I know at the middle school last year they were set, they'd opened at 6 a.m. and closed at 6 p.m. So you could get in any of those times and then not on the weekend. And then there are some badges that unlock any doors at any time, 24/7. But it's all set through a computer system that we control.
Based on your job?
Yeah, based on your
Your
job,
need.
yeah.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions anybody has?
Not for me.
Okay,
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Okay.
Now we have Ms.
we go back
Branch.
to Evergreen.
I
Sorry,
told them
we're
we were-
moving right
I said we're
along.
moving so quickly.
I appreciate your flexibility as well.
Thank you.
So the purpose of me standing before you today is to give you an update concerning the stipends that were evaluated by Evergreen Solutions. As you may recall, I stood before you earlier this year to discuss with you the findings of the Evergreen study concerning our classification and compensation for positions that were on the unified pay plan. But in addition to them evaluating those positions, they also evaluated the stipends that we currently offer to employees. So the purpose of my overview today on slide 2 is for me to explain to you the project phases concerning the stipend evaluation, our progress to date as far as the study and the recommendations. And I'll also provide a presentation for Mrs. Golson to post to board docs once this is completed. I also, before I move forward, would just like to acknowledge that this summer we do have a student worker in human resources, Mr. Christopher Moore. He's here today just sitting to shadow me in the aspect of presenting presentations to the board. Now, in regards to the stipends, the purpose of stipends in school divisions is for us to be able to compensate employees concerning extra responsibilities or added job duties. The challenge that we have found with offering the stipends is that they can sometimes be difficult to manage, and more so in particular in the consistency of how they are offered, how they are applied, what duties justify receiving a stipend, and how those salaries are determined. So if you take a look at, I believe it's slide 5 or slide 4 for you, you'll see that there was a market salary survey conducted by Evergreen that was launched around November 2021, and there were 20 peers or school divisions that were surveyed concerning their stipends. Out of those 20 peers that were contacted, we received data from 7 peers. And when I say 7, I mean that provided enough data that was sufficient enough for them to be able to provide a comparison to what we offered here in Dinwiddie.
I have a question about that.
Yes.
The market peers, why is there not surrounding counties? I mean, obviously Manassas, Manassas and Carroll County, like
So
Henrico,
we
Wade not touching us.
we did include surrounding counties such as Richmond, Petersburg, Colonial Heights, but then we also looked at counties that had a similar local composite index, which is what is used by the DOE. And in the local composite index, they use factors such as cost of living, socioeconomic status, and things like that. For us to use in the comparison. So although they may not be close to us geographically, they're supposed to have a similar type of socioeconomic status in their community.
Well, I was just concerned. It seems like we seem to forget about Nottoway and Amelia, ones that actually butt up to our county. I like to see the future for us to.
Nottoway and Amelia, their salaries are actually lower than ours. So for the purpose of this study, I was trying to include peers that had salaries that were either comparable or above where we were at.
I mean, I don't know if everybody feels, I would like to see what all localities are doing. I could really care less what the city does without context to us. More in our area.
Okay, sure. That can be something that we can conduct on the outside to get that additional information and then come back to update you on that.
I have a question on page 5. Is that the number of stipends or the amount of the stipends? Like, okay, it's showing us at 120 and, for example, Carroll County at 40.
Are you referring to the bar graph?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is
it the money value or the number?
This is the number.
Number of stipends, okay.
Yes. So moving on to that slide, in reference to, so I can expound more on what you referenced. So the slide that the board is seeing right now is a comparison of our stipends by peers. So based on the information that we received from the study, we got information back from Carroll County, Chesterfield, Henrico, Louisa, Manassas, Powhatan, and Richmond. So in comparison to those school divisions, we offered 120 stipends compared to the next highest person, which offered a little over 60 stipends. And the feedback we received from Evergreen concerning their study is that our division offers significantly more than 50% than our closest peer on those stipend opportunities.
And did they think that was good or bad? Did they say?
Well, their recommendation is that we take a moment to evaluate it to bring some consistency to the process and consolidate it. Ultimately, we would like to be able to evaluate it and include some input from the individuals that receive these stipends, as well as from the administrative level, before we come to you with the final recommendation on what we think we should do moving forward. In regards to those recommendations, I would like to point out or clarify that Evergreen has indicated that they don't believe that stipends should be used for temporary assignment of duties at a lower level, for additional duties that are temporarily assigned to cover short periods of time, such as vacations or other leave, for periodic seasonal increases in the volume of work when the complexity of the duties is at the same level. And they also don't recommend that we provide stipends for training or professional development opportunities that may build an employee skill set or improve the competencies. So, knowing that that is their recommendation, I can say, admittedly that we have, done some of those things in the past where we've offered people stipends for doing assignments that are outside of their classroom, or an additional assignment for a short period of time. However, as I indicated before, this is their survey of, what they had a chance to look at. So I think that in addition to us dealing with the compensation study, which we are continuing to work on, that we should also take some time to digest this information that we have from Evergreen as well before we come back to you with what our recommendations are. Part of the concern that Evergreen indicated in their study is that some of our stipends are based on percentage rates from the teacher scale, and then some of them are flat rates. So they suggested that we adopt one form of payment or one form of determining how those stipends or salaries are determined, either percentage or either all flat rate. But their ultimate recommendation was the flat rate because those costs can be controlled. Taking that all into consideration, I will or would like for us to move forward in basing the stipends as appropriate for this school year based off of the new teacher scale that was implemented for fiscal year 2023. And then that will allow us to conduct the audit of the stipend offerings that we have and determine if there are any reductions that can be made, and also determine what our approach should be in the future for those stipends. We also want to be able to include some guidelines as far as pay practices and as far as how we determine how a person receives a stipend. We would like to be able to have some input on that and include that as part of our regulations moving forward so that people will understand how we make those determinations regarding stipends. So I'm not asking for you to make any action at this time. Just wanted to present this information to you so that you were aware, and then hopefully after we've had a time to review it with our leaders and those that are stipend holders, come back to you with what we may think would be a reasonable solution.
Ms. Blanche, what you're saying we're moving the stipends this year to the 2023 teacher scale. Where was it before?
On 2022.
It was. So at one time, sometime back, it was like frozen at some spot.
Not absolutely sure, but I know, part of the recommendation was from Evergreen was that we stop progressing with the teacher scale. But with us, just learning about this information, and I'm aware that some people kind of plan their budget based off of what they think they will receive from the stipend. And for those individuals that are paid a stipend based off of the teacher scale, they may not have been able to be prepared to know that they would not get the rate that would coincide with the new teacher scale. So that's why I would like to go ahead and move forward as we have been since I've been here, is to move forward with the teacher scale that was adopted for fiscal year 2023 in determining those amounts for those stipends.
Well, I just want to say historically that we fought very hard back in the day to get coaches on a scale where they got credit for how many years that they coached. And I'm not saying it doesn't need to be looked at or revised, but I'm saying it was a way for us to be able to retain people that were coaching. And we are fighting very hard right now and have lots of spots where we do not have coaches. So
Right.
I would like to make sure we keep that in mind as we look. Certainly we need to look at it, but
Yes.
historically that's why it's like that. Was trying to give someone who coached baseball 10 years a better stipend than the man who was coming in as the first year coach.
Right. And I want to certainly be able to honor that. So that's why we don't want to make any rash decisions without being able to hear the feedback from those that may be impacted by it. Thank you for that.
I will say though, at some point, we may not be able to sustain it. I mean, that's the problem. As the teacher's salary continues to increase, those percentages get higher and higher and higher. So I do think we need to try to.
Yeah, and maybe we need to,
Yeah.
because the teacher's salary increased, maybe we need to look at the percentages
Yeah.
instead of the
that.
salary. We need to
And we're
flip
one
it.
of the few
Right.
Yeah.
school systems that uses it that way.
Right, to start backing down off the percentages.
There's also been a thought too, maybe we need to differentiate what the amount is based on if the person is a contracted employee versus
Versus
if they are a non-contracted employee. Because certainly I think there is something to be said about an individual who is contracted with the school division. It shows that they have a level of commitment to the school division to be here year round versus a person that may just be hired on that temporary basis. Those individuals would be more likely to return, and if possible, we would like to be able to show that signification through how those stipends are awarded.
Thank you for that.
Yes. Are there any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No comment.
Okay, no citizen comments. Okay. Board comments?
I just want to say that welcome back. I know it seemed like you never left, but you're back, and we thank you for being back. But I want to say that I attended the new teacher orientation last week at the Pamplin. It was very nice and very well attended. Most of them showed up, which was good, and it was nice to have it off-site. I like that, and also coming from food services background, I like that our meal was prepared by our own.
Yes, it's very good.
Delicious, nutritious, colorful, and tasteful. Done by our own Miss Elton. We thank you very much for that. And this ain't I yield to the next one.
Okay. Barbara?
This is a short summer, and we've heard that from lots of people, so it's very important that when we hit the ground running, that we be positive and ready and make this school year and the activities are surrounded meaningful, and that we grab the kids' attention as soon as we can and celebrate the fact that we're back rolling again.
Okay.
I'd just like to welcome back all the staff. Thank you for the new ones that are joining us. We appreciate that as well. Just looking for a safe and productive school year, both students and staff.
Thank you. And I just want to, I hope that all of the principals, and I know y'all are all here, and I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful school year, and that you and your staff have a very successful year. And like Miss Benjamin said, that breakfast was wonderful that they gave us, and what y'all did for the new teachers was exceptional. I think they all enjoyed getting to see all the different schools and having the principals explain things to them. So very, very nice. And me, yes.
So the new teacher, I think, inspires and Mr. Moss and the team for pulling that together. I do think having it at the Pamplin Building was wonderful. They got the history there, plus they got to go out. And then they ended at Historic Southside, and Mrs. Yates was there with the team to talk about that school and the significance of it. So it was, I think, the whole Deep Roots, and to talk about it was really a nice thing. Other than we forgot the air conditioning buses. But we brought popsicles. We brought popsicles. Yes, that was good. But it was a great day, and heard a lot of good feedback from the new teachers. A lot of exciting things happening this week, and Mr. Moss has provided you with a calendar of events going on. So if you're Mr. Moss?
And I'm also going to share with you a Google
Okay.
Docs link so that you can see when it's updated in real time.
Right. We've already done a lot of wonderful training, very focused on cultural competence in our schools and our workplaces, and that's really the theme of this year. And one of the things we're really paying a lot of attention to, and so hopefully we'll be able to get out to some of that training. We got some new faces out. I see Miss McManus here. She was, this evening was, we approved Miss Ming this evening for the new, what's her title, Miss Wen?
Data and
School
Data assessment coordinator.
School Data and Assessment Coordinator, and we're just so happy. I see you over there with Mr. Johnson. You need to step away from him now. It's time to let go, Mr. Johnson. You have to let go of her now. But we're just so happy that you said yes, and we just know you're going to do amazing things in that new role. And so thanks for being here. We were here on Friday with the principals, and she came to work on Friday when it was her last day off. So we're very excited about that. And so just want to make sure I don't miss anybody out. I do want to say that there are a lot of people that don't go home for the summer. And those folks are our maintenance team and the guys that work out in the garage. And so, if you have a moment to think about, just letting them know how much we appreciate them, because that maintenance team and those folks working on the buses and the cars and all those things have been working all summer long. And I think sometimes we just take it for granted that they just show up and do amazing things for us, and they do it very quietly. And so I just am very grateful for them, and I just want to make sure we don't forget to do that. And of course, our cafeteria team, because they came out and they were, I'm telling you, I don't think I've ever seen them smile that as big as they were smiling that day, wearing their matching shirts and all. So it's going to be a great year. Very optimistic. Thank you.
Very good. All right. Anything else from anyone?
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Bonnie challenged us to be 17 minutes like last time. I said,